everybody. Welcome back to our Mental Health Power Up series. I am joined with Matt.
Hello.
And I am joined with Adam. Thank you so much for taking out some time to come talk to us about our mental health struggles. Well, not ours, but, mental health struggles in general. I'm super excited to have you on. It's nice to finally see your face because we've been talking through email for a while.
It's great to be here. Thank you.
Okay, so basically what we're going to be talking about is how to be there for someone. Like we've talked about depression, suicide, we've talked about a lot of different things, but one of the things we haven't focused on is what if it's not you that's having the issues or the struggles? What if it's somebody close to you or a family member or somebody you love? How can you be there for someone? So that's going to be our main topic. But before we start, we want to find out a little more about Adam. Like, what put you on this path? What made you decide that you wanted to help people with their mental health?
Well, the short part of that story is the Pulse nightclub shooting here in Orlando. I was getting my PhD in media psychology, which is more research based, and when I did my dissertation on the Pulse shooting, and realized I wanted to help people, and because I could do research all day, but I really couldn't, reach out to anybody. So I started to do some research and found the mental health counseling program at Rollins College here in Orlando, and the rest is history.
Wow, that's really incredible. I remember when that happened, and that was really, really, God, that was so tragic. It's wild that, like, not really wild, but I'm lacking the proper adjectives, but that was what turned you around and made you decide to really want to reach out and help people, because there's so much bias against the LGBTQ plus community that I think they do not that they don't have help, but I think someone wanting to help because of something like that happening is so amazing, right? So we have like things happening all the time with like people of color and the Black Lives Movement, and that just makes me curious to like maybe how many people, because of these horrific events, have decided to go out there and reach out and help, because you didn't have to. So that's really amazing that you decided to do that. And just tell me, do you love the work that you do? Do you feel accomplished in what you're doing? Does it make you happy?
It does. This is probably the happiest I've been in any job. Although there's one that I enjoyed maybe as equally, and it was when I was a teenager. I used to dance on street corners for apartment complexes in really fun costumes. So
that's amazing.
Wait a minute. Yeah, Adam, you have to tell us a little bit about that. What? You can't just throw that in there.
Right. They're called human directionals, because the idea is that you're in this crazy costume advertising for a company. I did it for apartments, and you're trying to draw traffic in. So it's like sign spinners, but without spinning the sign.
Oh,
that is so cool.
That is so cool. I didn't even know that was a I didn't know that was a thing either. So you got some nice dance moves. Is that what you're telling me, Adam?
I like to think so. I mean, I could hire them, so,
Yeah, that's like really incredible. So like when you made the decision, to kind of switch over from research and head towards, working with people a little bit more, once you started doing it, like, was there a lot of, your own kind of stuff that you had to overcome to start doing that? Because I imagine for me, switching from like research to something more, client focused might be difficult. Like, was that an easy transition, or did you find out like, oh, maybe this is what I should have been doing the whole time? Like, how did that kind of transition happen for you, and how did you feel going through it?
The thing that they told us when we first started the program is that your relationships are going to change. You're going to go through a lot of stuff, and some people are going to grow with you, and some people are going to be left behind or fall away. And through that process, even though I've kind of questioned this my entire life, I kind of realized during the process that my own gender identity was being questioned. And so doing counseling, learning about it, doing my own counseling, because I do believe that if you're going to be a counselor, you should also be in counseling so you can know what it's like. Just started to really develop more of my own personal identity. And and then when I graduated, found geek therapeutics and even found more of my identity. I was like, oh wow, this is this thing that I hid away when I was a teenager can actually be used. So
I like
That is
yeah.
amazing. That
that.
is so cool.
I think one of the things that you brought up that really stood out to me, and what you just said, is that somebody who is a counselor should probably be in counseling so they know what it feels like. And I think that's so important, to be able
Mm.
to have that experience so that you can relate to your clients or the people that you work with. Another question I wanted to ask is, what age group do you predominantly work with?
I've been working a lot with adolescents, probably
Hmm.
about 12 to 13, into young adulthood. I do have a few clients who are older,
Hmm.
but primarily I work with adolescents to young adults.
Okay, that's great. I know from personal experiences, being like, I was I guess you would call it a teacher's assistant back in California, and I worked at a middle school, and it was for a program called Stars. I don't know if it still exists, but it worked with children who had autism and kind of like different things on the learning spectrum and things like that. And that's a tough group to work with, like, because they will challenge you in ways that you're not expecting. So what is one of the ways that you relate to your clients, since they're so young? Is that where geek therapeutics really comes in, or can you explain more of
Yeah,
that?
I definitely say geek therapeutics has helped. I used to be scared of kids before,
I
like when I was
understand.
in school. And I was also scared of the parents because, like, well, what if they tell me something and I've got to now talk to their parents? And, you
Right.
know, that's since gone away a little bit. But geek therapeutics has definitely helped me um, connect with the kids, and it's also sometimes I play dumb with them as well and have them teach me something even if I know it. And then there's a lot of times I don't know what they're talking about because I'm 40 and not 13, and
Right.
I had to learn what the word yeet meant.
Oh my God.
So
That's so funny. Right before the podcast, Matt was talking about yeeting something.
I
right,
did. Yeah, I was talking about that.
I've heard
But
that a
no,
lot
that's
with
great.
my trans clients, with my trans youth, because they'll say,
Okay.
when they want top surgery, they'll say they're gonna yeet the teats.
That is amazing.
That's so great. You know
That's
what's
so good.
incredible? I can't remember. It's so like amazing to hear about like the diverse group of young people that you're working with, because like when me and Matt were talking about when we would go to school and we had a counselor, it was all about make sure you get the grades so that you can get in college. There was no talks about being trans or being gay or like struggling with your sexuality. So like
Hmm.
things have really changed, and I love that like we're changing with them, and that we have people like you who are actually talking to these kids, because I can't imagine how many people in our generation could have used counseling because we were struggling with our identity. And one of the things that I'm going to skip over to the main topic is how how can we be there for someone who may be struggling with some sort of mental crisis, not being counselors ourselves, like without
Hmm.
being like, you should call this number? How can we like continue to be supportive of somebody who's struggling?
I think the most important thing to do is to listen, is to really just be present and listen. And I think the last thing to do, unless somebody asks for it, is to give advice.
Okay.
Oftentimes, our first instinct is to, no, it's going to be okay, things are going to work out. And oftentimes that can be, you know, toxic positivity, where the intentions are good, but we don't know if it's going to work out. We don't know what the
Mm,
person's experiencing. Um, so it's developing that empathy for another person, sympathy, if you've also experienced it, and just be there. Sometimes something I do with my own friends is I'll uh, I'll ask them what they're looking for. Like, are you looking for advice? Do you just want to vent?
Okay.
Do you even want to talk about it? We can play a game.
right.
Sometimes it's not even about the whatever they're going through, just being there.
I
I think
liked the
that's
term. I'm sorry, Matt. Go
Mhm.
ahead.
No,
I
I was
just
going to say no. Okay, go you, buddy. You got
sorry.
first.
I was just gonna say I'd never heard the term toxic positivity before. And I wanted to know if you could kind of expand on that. Like, what are some other ways that you could do that without knowing? Because I know I'm the type of person who's a fixer. So if you tell me that something's wrong and you're feeling bad, I automatically want to make you feel better and fix the issue. And I don't
Mhm.
even realize that I'm doing it, which I guess could come off as toxic positivity, right?
Well, yeah, we all do it. I think everybody does it. And it really what it is it's this idea that no matter how bad a situation is or difficult something is, that if you maintain a positive mindset, then things are going to be good.
Mhm.
And while that's, I mean, that's great. It'd be great if that can happen, but we often do it unconsciously by saying, look on the bright side, just stay
Mm,
positive. Everything happens for a reason. Uh, Something that I've experienced personally with like long term grief is the idea of it's God's plan.
Mhm.
Nothing against religion, but
right,
Right.
right,
when you're kind of in a grief process, the last thing for me personally, I want to hear is, well, if that's true, why is this bad thing happening?
Mhm.
right. I'm so glad you brought that up. I was thinking that right as you said it, and I've always had like an issue with that term, right? When bad things happen, well, it was just time. Like God just wanted to take them home and things like that. And I've and it's nothing against people who are religious. I just have a
Mhm.
hard time accepting that that's what it is, and that like people can just be okay with that and like kind of move on. But I also get it that it may be part of a coping mechanism because you can't handle it,
Mm-hmm.
so you say these little quips to yourself to be like, you know what, well, shit happens, right? Yeah,
Right.
everything happens for a reason. And when I think about it, I say that to myself a lot. So, like, for anybody who's a pet owner out there, I recently, last year, I lost my cat, who was like my baby, and I had her for like 11 years. And in order to stop blaming myself, I had to say, well, everything happens for a reason, right?
Mm-hmm.
Even though that is it, I think that's the only thing that kind of helped me get over it. But in the end, it really didn't help me get over what happened because the whole thing was like
Mhm.
really tragic. So if you don't say things like that, um, what else can you say to help somebody who's going through something really hard without being toxic and using it in a positive way? Like, what can you say?
You can, well, first of all, validate the feeling.
Mhm.
Okay.
Acknowledge the human emotion. That sucks. Losing a pet sucks. It's like a member of your family.
Mhm.
Um, and especially with grief, a lot of times I think we're afraid to talk about death. We're afraid to mention that this thing happened, the person died or a pet died. And so, but if we can acknowledge it, it's like I've lost a pet myself, and I understand what you're going through. What can I do to help? What do you need in this moment?
Yeah. See, I think for me, like, and so it's something that I've kind of learned, and especially from other people along, in life, I have a hard time walking the line between I'm telling you about myself because I want to relate, but I also don't want to make it about myself. Do you know
Mhm.
what I mean? I feel like that's a very thin line, regardless of good intentions. Being
Right.
like, okay, I want to empathize and sympathize with you by kind of relating something that I went through to something that might not be 100%, exactly the same, but at least similar in some way or shape or form. How do you kind of walk that line of being that, like, okay, here are some personal experiences that I want to share with you, but I don't want to make it about myself? Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know if
Mhm.
I'm explaining this properly, but I feel like that's a very difficult line to walk because sometimes it can be, okay, you went through that too. That makes me feel better. But sometimes it can be like, why are you talking about yourself right now? I'm trying to tell you about how I'm feeling. Like, how do you go about doing that?
That's a really good question, and I think I still work on that myself. Um,
Mhm.
don't know if I have a complete answer for that right now, but I know like with my clients, I'll kind of gauge it person by person, because
Mhm.
the other thing too is that no two people are the same, and so what works
Right.
for one might not work for another. And so
Right.
Mhm.
I'm a narrative therapist, um, by well, I guess by trade. That's my modality. So I like to use story a lot, and I'll try to connect with clients using story. Either if it's warranted, kind of a personal experience. I know there's controversy out there about self disclosure, um, or even find in a geek therapy way, maybe a
Mhm.
story, or a character that's experienced something similar to to make it more relatable.
Mhm.
I think what I'm getting from this, though, is that the more questions you ask, the better you can help
Mhm.
someone, right? So maybe perhaps like, because I know I want to do the same thing to make it relatable, but maybe ask, I, like I see that you're going through a hard time. Can I share with you something,
Mhm.
that I
Mhm.
went through that, that can kind of be relatable? Just, I think asking questions is, I'm sorry, my words are like failing me right now, but I think asking questions, and it's kind of like getting that permission, right, to
Mhm.
be there, and to share that experience. And I need to work on that too, because like I said, as soon as one of my friends comes to me and they're upset, I'm like, who did it? Who do I need to fuck up? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, I'm
Yeah.
ready. So I really appreciate you sharing that information. And it's really made me, like, as you were talking about things, it's really made me think about how I need to approach people who are going through things, because 2020, and even moving into 2022 has been really hard for
Mhm.
people. And a lot of people are just struggling with coming to terms with, we're still in a pandemic. We still have to be really safe. We're losing people, like
Mhm.
family members are dying, jobs are crazy. So, yeah, I think these are life lessons that me, Matt, and even our listeners can take away from this. So if you have somebody who's struggling or needs something, like, and if they come to you, don't try to solve their problem right away, but like ask questions, like find out more about the situation, how they're feeling, and what they need before you
Mhm.
act.
Yeah, and yeah,
Yep.
asking questions, giving the person an opportunity to make that choice for themselves, for themselves, uh, can make a lot of difference. Because if somebody's not ready to talk about it, if they're bombarded by like, what do I need to do? Who do I need to fuck up? And all of that, it's then they might start to get anxious and not let themselves feel what they need to feel. Um, oh, I had a thought and it just jumped right out of my head.
It's okay.
No, I completely get it. Yeah, and I think that's something that I definitely struggle with, because like similar to Destiny, right? And I feel like you mentioned, Adam, like it's pretty normal for somebody wanting to kind of jump in and try and fix the problem, because
Mhm.
sometimes like seeing somebody that you care about, or seeing somebody that's trusted you, with that information, it can be difficult to just be
Sit there
there.
on
I
it.
think
Yeah.
Yeah.
exactly. But I love that you brought up earlier, just asking about what it is that they need in that moment. Do you want to talk about it? Do you want to just play a game? How can I kind of be there? I think the kind of thing that like I struggle with, because I've had situations before where I've had people who I know are going through something, whether it's um, something that's just because of the spur of the moment, or something that's been kind of there for a while. And something that I struggle with is just accepting that sometimes, and just letting space be a thing, because I just want to, like, if I want to check in on someone without being like overbearing, what's a good way to do that? Because like sometimes you want to be like, okay, I haven't seen you in a week. I know you're going through something. I don't want to be too much, but I just want to make sure that you're okay. Like, how do you kind of go about doing that in a way that isn't, not confrontational, isn't the right word, isn't invasive. That's a better word for it.
Mm.
I mean, just like you were saying, just checking in. Like, hey, it's been a minute since I've heard from you. I just want to
Hmm.
make sure everything's okay. Doesn't and if they're a person who, especially if they're a friend, we all know our friends, right? We know,
Mm.
Hmm.
if something's out of character. Um, Sometimes it is warranted to be a little invasive, just to like make sure somebody's okay if that's out of the norm.
Right.
Um, but just I think a simple check in of haven't talked to you in a week. Want to make sure you're okay.
Yeah.
Please, if it's a message, just, hey, hit me back up when you
When you can, kind of thing.
when you
Yeah.
can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's good because it doesn't it doesn't put pressure on them, right? So like I had a friend who just lost her sister suddenly. And so like I would just, every couple of days just checking in, I'm here if you want to talk.
Mhm.
Right? So like if she wanted to respond, she could, and if she didn't, no big deal, right?
Mhm.
She knew I was there when she needed me. So that's how I would approach it. And I think you did a pretty good job when we were in Korea. Like you and Senna and Natasha checked up on me because it was like a really hard time for me. And I didn't
Mhm.
always respond, but like
Mhm.
I didn't always feel like I couldn't, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? But I
Yeah.
never felt any pressure from you guys to be like, you need to like respond to me right now. So
Mhm.
yeah, I really appreciate that. Yeah. So
Yeah.
one of the questions I wanted to get into before we jump into our last segment is what made you decide to choose narrative therapy as your way to work with your students? Because I am very like out of the loop of this. I didn't even know that that was a thing. So, yes, I want to know more about it.
Well, in full disclosure, I'm still training and taking courses in it. It's a theory that um, I was drawn to because, well, let me back up.
Okay.
I'm career changing as
Mhm.
well, so I also teach in a college here in Orlando. I teach motion media, video editing, that
Oh,
type of stuff.
wow.
So
Man, you do
Amazing.
a like dancing, teaching motion media,
well,
counselor. Look at
dancing. We'll
you.
just put
Oh,
dancing in quotes there.
like I'm thinking
But
that you're going to be on Dancing with the Stars. Shh, I'm ready.
I don't have that kind of coordination. Um, I started my career in the film and television industry. I went to film school and in Georgia, moved out to California, and
SCAD?
tried to, yeah.
I knew
Mhm. I love
it.
SCAD.
Okay.
I love Savannah. It's
It's
Midnight in the Garden of Good and
beautiful.
Evil.
Yeah. Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
No, you're moved out to California, to live the dream, make it big in the film industry,
Mm,
um, and then my friend from SCAD called and said there was a job here in Florida teaching, and I really wasn't feeling. I loved California. I would move back there in a heartbeat, um, but I just wasn't feeling the industry like I was in my early 20s, and
Mhm.
so I moved here, started teaching, found the media psychology program. And when I started counseling, I realized that there's been this thread that's I've pulled through everything, which was narrative, which was this idea of story. Like story was at the
Mhm.
heart of everything that I was doing, and I didn't see it until I started counseling. And one of the things that I believe in counseling is that uh, we find meaning in the stories we tell ourselves, and so
yeah,
Mhm.
the stories we live, our lived experiences, shape who we are.
Mhm.
absolutely. Oh my God, you've had such an incredible like life. Like the fact that you and I'm saying this because like there are so many people, and this is kind of like a tangent. There are so many people like from my generation. I'm not that much younger than you, by the way, from our generation who go to school for one thing and think that that's what we have to do for the rest of our lives. But you're like proof that like you can go for one thing and transition into another thing and just be as successful. And you literally said this is one of the happiest times you've had in a job. And I think that's incredible. And how you're using what you learned from SCAD, because I'm sure you had to do with narrative and media, and how that's helped shape what you want to do and how you're going about therapy. And that's incredible because I don't think anybody would think about somebody going to SCAD, using the information and the knowledge they've gotten there, and then taking that and using it in therapy. Like, that's so cool to me. That's so cool.
All right. Well, I appreciate that. And the my dad also is very my parents, I should say, are both very happy with it because I'm using went to college for one thing, doing something else, but I can at least say, well, I'm still using that knowledge. I'm just
Yeah.
not making movies. So
No, that's cool. And I'm glad that they're supporting you. Parental support is so important. It's
Mhm.
so important. So, skipping over to our last segment. And this is one that we usually talk about on our regular podcast. We always try to ask this question at the beginning, because we do care about mental health and because we are about gaming and all the geek culture things. Is there any form of media or any game that has gotten you through a tough time or that just means a lot to you? We'd really love for you to share that with our listeners.
Sure. Film. I think film and television was probably the medium that I connected with the most. Like the thing that got me to become a filmmaker, wanting to be a filmmaker, I should say, was horror films. I loved Wes Craven, Nightmare on Elm Street, Halloween, the classics. But I'm also a comic nerd. I love the X-Men. So the 90s cartoon, which I'm super excited they're bringing
I'm super
back,
excited they're remaking it. Yes.
Right?
All the same voice actors. It's beautiful.
I know. If they don't have the classic song, then I'm going to be disappointed. But but definitely film and television. And even to this day, like television is an escape. Somebody who loves story, this would probably be blasphemous, but I'm not a big reader. I just like I read.
That's okay.
But it's not like it takes a lot to hold my attention. Maybe that's the television
I
generation.
don't even think that's blasphemous because there's so many ways to tell a story, right? Like just listening or watching. So yeah, no, you're golden. But is there any like one movie that like kind of like you go back to? That's like
Sophie's
one of your
choice. No.
Okay.
There is a TV show that I would say that is probably is at the heart of my love for story, and it's also in this kind of new thing we're experiencing now is this like toxic authorship that we're seeing with like J.K. Rowling, and Harry Potter, Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Oh, okay, that was my show.
I
she got with
scheduled
Spike.
College around Buffy. Like my sociology class was on Tuesday nights at 8 p.m. and I missed that class almost every week because I had to watch Buffy.
I understand.
So
I understand. Like it's totally worth it. You know what's wild about that is the fact that like most series that are based off of movies aren't as great as the movie, but I have to say the series for me blows the original Buffy movie out of the water.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, it's so good. Like Sarah Michelle Gellar will always be Buffy for me.
I didn't even know there was a Buffy movie.
Yeah, it stars Christy Swanson and Luke Perry. And Paul Rubens, Pee Wee Herman's in it as well.
Yep. It's
Joss
much
Whedon
more of a comedy, I feel.
Joss Whedon actually wrote the script, I believe, for the first.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Buffy. I didn't know that.
And my understanding of the TV series is that he came back. He wanted to kind of do it his way.
Okay, I see.
Interesting.
Yeah. Have you ever seen Buffy the Vampire Slayer?
Me?
Matt?
No.
Oh, okay. You got to watch it.
We're going to have to fix that. I mean,
yeah. It's good.
So. I don't know if you can see behind me, but all of these books here are all the comics from
because they
that's so incredible.
So it's
I love people who have fandoms and just like
that's my fandom.
That's how I am with Transformers. But oh my God, Adam, thank you. This was an incredible talk. Like honestly, I didn't know what to expect out of it. I was like, he's going to tell us how to be there for people. But I feel like I got so much more that I wasn't even, because I'm trying to change my career right now. So you've given me some hope, because I was definitely like, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing anymore. But no, thank you so much for coming on and spending time with us. And listen, we would love to have you on our regular show so we can just geek out over Buffy or whatever you would like to talk about.
Yeah, let me know. I'm happy to do it. And you guys are great.
Thank you. So sweet of you. Matt, do you have any closing statements?
I would just like to before we go, I would just like to learn more about Adam's socials. Is there a place where people can find you if they want to learn more about you?
Yes. Let me see if I can remember all of them because I'm really bad at my social media. On Instagram and Twitter, my handle is a storyologist. So it's like psychologist, but a storyologist.
Clever.
And I believe that's also on TikTok. I think that's mine on TikTok. I'm trying to get
better about the social media. Oh my God, I'm ready.
Well, now I got to go update it.
Yeah. By update, he means delete certain things. But
Right.
guys, thank you so much for being a part of the show. Adam, thank you again for coming on. All of our listeners, thank you for being a part of this. We are going to have more coming at you. And just so you can find Adam on all of his social media platforms, we will be listing that all below.
Yep.
Thanks again, Adam. And this is Burnout Brighter signing off. See you guys next time.
Peace.
Thank you.
Deuces.
Everyone, we hope you have been enjoying Mental Health Power Up as much as we have. These conversations are incredibly important and we very much appreciate your time. But these conversations aren't the only thing that we're doing, Destiny. What is the second part to this?
Guys, the second part is pretty baller. So we are going to be asking you guys to donate money and share the information about the podcast, but specifically about Guardians Mental Health. They're this great organization that uses geek culture, the things that we absolutely love, comics, gaming, video games, to kind of help people who are struggling mentally and in a therapeutic way. And they put together these kits that they send out, and you don't have to pay for these kits. This is one of the most amazing things about what this organization is doing. They're sending out these kits, but obviously it takes money to print the materials, to get everything put together. And that's why we're raising money for them, because we want to help them so that they can help more of you guys. And Matt has got some amazing details about what you can win if we reach certain tiers.
That's right. You just need to donate to be entered. There is no amount that is too small or too large. Whatever you're able to do, $10 is what it costs to make these kits. So if you can do that, fantastic. If you could do absolutely anything, we would appreciate it. As we hit different stretch goals, we are going to be giving out different amazing gifts that we have for some amazing people that we're working with. So please hop over to that link, take a look. If you can donate, please do so. And you might just win something cool for yourself as well. Because again, every little bit can make a difference in someone's life. So we thank you for taking the time to do so. If you can, if you can't, Destiny, if somebody can't donate, what else can they do to help?
They can just share the information. Share it to your social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, wherever you have like a place that you like to interact with people online, share that information. And one of the things that I wanted to say, and I know Matt and Darren feel the same way, is we just want to thank you guys, because for each one of you that shares or donates, I'm just going to say it prematurely. Thank you so much. This is so important to us, and it's important to our listeners. And it's one of the main reasons why we even started the podcast. Like, not only was it about gaming, but mental health has definitely been a strong core that we've always wanted to talk about. So this is our first time doing it. We're super excited. We hope you're excited. And yeah, donate, share the information, win some prizes. But most of all, just do it from the bottom of your heart. You know what I mean? Like, the prizes are just kind of like icing on top of the cake.
Exactly. So please be there for one another. Help us reach other people who might need to hear some of this, because we know how much it's helped us. So thank you. Like Destiny said, we'll see you on the next one, everybody. All the links will be in the show notes below. Check it out. Bye.